It's about the means restriction, right?
In Palo Alto, California, and around the country, the issue isn't always about firearms.
In this community, the issue was we have a very busy train system called the Caltrain. And I think what we didn't pay enough attention to really was the downstream intervention, which is how do we really restrict access to means at the train tracks?
Right. The community had staffed guards to watch the train stops after the first cluster, but took more aggressive steps after the second. Now this community believes it has worked to address suicide prevention both upstream through training in schools, its walk-in clinic pilot program, and community conversations about prevention, and downstream by making it harder to access the train tracks. The youth suicide rate in Palo Alto has gone down in recent years. Still, the community knows it has more work to do.
People take a deep breath and say, okay, hopefully it's in our rearview mirror now. And I know as a parent and as a clinician here, as a faculty member, as a researcher, that objects in our rearview mirror are closer than they appear. And we know that we still have a number of attempts every week that we see in the emergency room. We do, however, see that kids are way more connected now.
I think there's been a tremendous amount of progress in the community. I think it's easy to focus on what we still don't have and what we're still lacking.
Chloe Sorensen, who watched Palo Alto's most recent suicide cluster unfold as a high schooler, is now a student at Stanford studying psychology.
But if I think back to when I was a freshman in high school back in 2013, which is only 7 years ago, so much is different in the school system, so much is different in the community. I feel like so much is different about the culture, the way that we talk about mental health. I feel like mental health is very out in the open now. There's a lot less stigma.
She has begun an effort to encourage journalists to report responsibly on suicide.
And for me as a young person who had already lost friends to suicide, you can imagine I was already feeling like pretty hopeless.
Yeah.
So for the media to kind of come in with that narrative of like, these kids are killing themselves, we can't stop it, there's nothing we can do, was really heartbreaking. And I saw the way that impacted me, the way it impacted my peers. If you portray this really bleak and hopeless picture, it can actually be more harmful than helpful. So one of the best things you can do in the aftermath of a suicide is spread hope and resources, so mental health resources, whether that's a crisis number or local mental health centers or like just mental health care services. Because essentially you want to send a message to people who are reading that story that there is help available in case they are feeling that way.